Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast.
Cold Fat Raindrops, Chapter 30. Our header is the dice, because this is clearly a Matt chapter. The day dawned cold, with gray clouds that obscured the rising sun, and winds off the sea of storms that rattled loose panes of glass in the window casements. In stories, not the sort of day for grand rescues and escapes. It was a day for murders. Not a pleasant thought when you were hoping to live past another dawn. But the plan was simple. Now that he had a Shan Chan blood to use, nothing could possibly go wrong. Matt tried very hard to convince himself of that. Lopin brought him breakfast, bread, and ham, and some hard yellow cheese while he dressed. Niram was folding a few last pieces of clothing that were to go to the inn, including some of the shirts Tylan had made. They were good shirts, after all, and Niram claimed he could do something about the lace, though, as usual, he made it sound as if he were offering to sew a shroud. The lugubrious, gray-haired little fellow was handy with a needle, as Matt knew well. He had sewn up enough of Matt's wounds. So, is this day 10 or day 9?
I believe it's day 10.
Because I thought she got back a little early, right? And that's why his plans got thrown off. I thought she was originally supposed to come back the next day. On day... Well, I guess if this is day 10, then she's gone for 10 days. She comes back on day 11.
She's coming back late on day 10, and I think he was assuming she'd be gone for 10 days. And so, like, he was going to be gone that night, right? Like, the overlap is just by a few hours. It almost worked out.
Okay.
But, because in the last chapter, it was like we got a 9-day montage and then a description of night 9 that was really long. So that way it felt like it was opening today on day 10.
This is day 10. So the 10th day.
Right. So, like, this is still technically within a week, where she said she was going to be gone for a week or more.
Right.
So, hence the barely making it out 9 time.
Mm-hmm. And that's because Wheel of Time weeks are 10 days, not 7.
Right.
So he's referring to a Shan Chan blood he's got. That's, of course, a Guinan who's been elevated, and he's going to use her to sneak them out. And so here, there's sort of a bit where he makes everybody repeat the plan, right? Repeat after me.
Exposition.
Yeah, a little exposition, a little bit of, like, Ocean's 11, like, all right, we're going to see what's going on. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
That thing where they're laying out the map and they're sort of narrating the plan while at the same time you see the plan going on. But then, of course, the plan goes awry. Yeah. Isn't that Mission Impossible, though?
Yes, but they do that, too. No. It's a classic move. I don't know the Ocean's 11 theme, but like I know that Mission Impossible music goes with that scene anytime anyone wants to parody ye old classic action movie. It's meme status.
And I also think this is where Brandon gets Matt's penchant for backstories, because he makes extensive plans, but it's not necessarily backstories that he gets into as deep, but this, like, making them repeat the plan over and over again, I can see where he sort of converted that into the backstory thing that he does later. Yeah, here's the Matt trait that he kind of fumbled on, but, like, here is the trait in the original character, which is over planning and making everybody practice a whole bunch. Right. But the written backstories, that's not something I see Matt doing. Because that's not the kind of planning he does. He doesn't think, like, you need to be this person. He's thinking you need to be here, you need to be there. It's much more battle strategy. You figure it out in between points A and B, but I need you to be at point B at this point. He's not the micromanaging with the backstories. Yeah. That's a little much for me. Yeah, exactly. And really the important thing here is that we're emphasizing how much the entire crew is on board with getting Olver safely away. Right. Above and beyond everything else. And that does... Because Olver is a child. Right. That does seem to be the goal of pretty much everybody, is, like, get Olver out. And he's sort of manipulating people to be where he wants in the name of, doing it for the children, namely Olver. Yeah, he is absolutely shameless in using Olver as a goad and as a carrot all at the same time for all the women, all the men, everyone who's anywhere in his orbit. He's like, if I can guilt you with this child, I absolutely will. Here he's thinking he had been told that he was fated to die and live again, a prophecy, but he was pretty sure that had already happened. Yes, it has, Matt, but not when you think it has. Because remember when he talks to Arthur Pendragon, right?
Maybe.
Yes. Arthur Hawkwing tells him that you died and lived again, gambler, right? But not. And he says, oh, yeah, I think I know when that happened. And he's like, no, it's when you got balefire saved, not when you got hung.
Right, yeah. It's, yeah. Very nodding. He is Arthur Pendragon. Then he becomes Arthur Hawkwing. It's a whole thing.
Gotcha. Right. His name is a Pendragon.
Yeah, I'm actually, everyone should go listen to the latest Tarvalin After Dark because that's their main topic, is talking about Arthur Hawkwing. And so it starts with a history lesson about who Arthur Hawkwing was. So if you want to fact check us, go listen to Tarvalin After Dark because they just deep dived that. Literally, the episode dropped today.
You know, it's funny, after doing this for 5 years, sometimes, you know, it comes and goes when I'm actually listening to the books, and obviously sometimes I'm not because I do have to consume other media occasionally. And I realize that, you know, you lose some of the details and some of the names that you thought you had on the tip of your tongue. If you're not immersed in it for a couple of months, you can actually lose some of the details pretty quick.
But they come back again because it's like riding a bike.
They come back right away. Yeah, totally. It's not like they're gone. But yeah, it's funny that yeah, that's just getting old. That's what? No, I'm not old.
What short-term memory loss?
What were we talking about? Well, what? Okay.
So next we have Olver schooling Matt on how Rozelle's getting married because comedy?
Okay, so I think what's going on here is projection, right? So when Matt's like, I don't know, I just thought you might want to take her with us or something, you know? He is projecting all his feelings about Tylan onto Oliver's feelings about Roselle. As he's like, I kind of want to take her. She's my little, like, I'm enjoying my relationship and like I don't really want to leave her behind. There's some regret that's going on there. And he's like, well, don't you want your bosom that you've been sleeping on for a couple of weeks? And Oliver's like, nah, I'm good. She's marrying that dude. And I think Matt is, you know, he stayed in Tylan's bed again tonight, right? Waiting for the right moments. Mm-hmm. Like that's where he's staying the last 2 nights. Like, again, as much as I don't like the way the relationship started, there is a certain amount of affection Matt has for Tylan at this point in the story, and he doesn't want to leave her behind.
Plus, he thinks she's going to be in danger, and he really hates leaving women in danger. Like, regardless of his other feelings, like that is one of his least favorite things to do. So,
and I think that's why he's harping on Beslin this whole chapter.
Yeah, I think you're right. He's projecting a lot onto Olver because, you know, Olver's good for it. He doesn't know what the adults are talking about. He's just spouting the truth because from the mouth of babes. Right?
From the mouth of babes, yeah.
He's just like, nah, I'm pretty sure her husband doesn't want her consorting with strange children in any kind. It just seems like they're going to go do their thing now. So, whatevs.
And I think there's a little bit of Oliver like being like, you know, that was fun, but moving on. He sees Matt go from woman to woman to woman. It's not like Matt's a one woman type of guy yet.
Yeah, and like Oliver's not at all emotionally invested in Roselle. It was just a fun hobby, and like they're leaving the city. Of course, he's leaving Roselle. Like, whatever. But yeah, no, Matt having projection issues is that makes a lot of sense.
That's the best I could come up with him like, don't you want to take her with you? Like, he's kind of acting a little hurt himself that Olver doesn't want to take her.
And then we get one of the coolest little bits of foreshadowing. Did you see it? Did you see it? Yeah.
The snakes and foxes?
Yeah. Olver had already lost more in his 10 years than most people did in a lifetime. Reminder of his backstory. But he still believed you could win at snakes and foxes without breaking the rules. And we all know that he will have that belief fucking confirmed during the rescue. Because his game ties to Matt's, and he somehow, because Matt wins while following the rules, Matt
I would
follows
disagree.
The rules. Well,
Matt breaks the rules. He brings in the fire and the song, but you're right. It is the fact that he remembers the fact that he has the key. That's what gets him out, not necessarily breaking the rules.
well, and he follows the internal logic of the place, right? By using the dice, he leans into the rules. He literally uses the dice to win the game, which is what Olver's doing, right? Olver is rolling the dice and then wins the game, and then that sets him on a course forever to be an adventurer and a probable hero of the Horn candidate and all of this stuff, because he's gonna win Snakes and Foxes without breaking the rules someday, and it's gonna be right before the fall of Camelin and the last battle, and while Matt's off rescuing like literal Gandalf, and like it just boom, this line is just boom, mic drop of foreshadowing.
Here's my question. Can Snakes and Foxes, the game, be won without cheating? Or is it one of those like 1 in a 10 billion chance that you just have to be super lucky to get exactly the right roll of the dice, and it's set up for that to be almost impossible in terms of odds, but there is a way to do it?
Yes to both? I can't have yes to both. Because Olver does it while rolling the dice, I want to believe that it is technically possible, but it is just astronomically unlikely, because that's how Matt's luck works. And Olver is expressly not cheating. He's a very meticulous child who's really into following the rules. And that's the only reason why that game is so critically tied to... It's a reflection of Matt's experience, right? Olver's not magically making the rescue work. His game is reflecting what Matt's doing. What Matt's doing is beating the odds. So the game has to be winnable. The odds are just impossible for someone in a normal human lifetime.
I was just thinking how that parallels Rand's battle in The Great Hunt when he's like fighting Ishamael, and that models the battle of the Shan versus
the Heroes of the Horn.
The Heroes of the Horn, that's right. Yeah, Matt's like, he's not tied to a major battle, he's tied to a little boy's dice game.
Right, yeah.
Incredibly appropriate.
But, that little boy is going to write a hell of a book in like 50, 60 years.
The Travels of Olver Cawthon? Do we think he took Matt's last name?
Ooh, maybe. So no, but he's definitely he's gonna take a name from something to do with this period of his life. One of the Red Arms, Matt, the band itself, something. Mm-hmm. For sure. Oh, shut up, Lilligen. He takes it as a twist. Pshaw. And to answer your question, I actually recall winning a game of Snakes and Ladders. I played that game fairly obsessively for a couple of years. I definitely won it.
Yeah, it's not impossible to win.
Very difficult, though. I tried playing it again a few months ago, and it was like, God damn, how did I ever manage to win this? This is frustrating. Oh, right, I played 1,000 games. You will win a few times if you just obsessively play it.
I feel like it's that way with poker, where it's like some of those higher hands, you have to play like hundreds, if not hundreds of thousands of hands to hit the straight flush or whatever it is. The odds of actually getting one of those is so rare. Yeah. And yet, it's like any other form of randomness. Like, the next time, it could be the time. Yeah, exactly. It's not like you build up to it. It just happens. Mm-hmm. It just happens, yeah. There's a great little bit in Brandon Sanderson's latest book, Rhythm of War, where one of the characters, and spoilers for Rhythm of War, give you 5 seconds to scramble away. One of the characters gets, either really smart or really dumb. And he's either dumb and empathetic or smart and callous, right? And that's the range. And every day he wakes up somewhere on that range. And one day he woke up super smart, super brilliant, genius, God-level intelligence, could see the future, all this kind of stuff, right? And he's trying to calculate the odds. And it turns out this all falls along a bell curve and trying to calculate the odds. And he's like, well, then it's impossible. It should never happen. It's like, no, it's possible. It happened. It was just an incidence of one. And the fact that it happened doesn't make it any more or less likely to happen in the future. Mm-hmm. And they really dug in that whole disconnected probabilities don't affect each other. But yet they still happen. Unlike, someone's going to win the lottery, right? Right. Even though it's extremely unlikely that any individual person wins the lottery, someone's going to win it. Yeah, totally. And for that person, the chances are 100%. Right, exactly. And it's such a weird thing to get your head around in statistics, and I'm not sure I've ever fully grokked it. I'm sort of, every time I get into statistics, I'm like, oh, I think I understand the difference between the absolute odds and the like individual odds, and I don't get it.
Much like deep time, you start to grasp it, and then your brain just shies away and is like, no, I need to go back to where things make sense, even if they don't make sense actually logically on paper.
So meanwhile, Beslin's gotten wind of this whole plan, and he's like, okay, well then that's when I'm going to have my rebellion. I'll be a great distraction for you. The timing's just about right, but I'm kind of pissed you didn't give me a warning. I could have done something absolutely spectacular, but no, you gave me 12 hours notice. That's not enough, but I'll do what I can. I'll set some shit on fire. And Matt's like, no, not you. You are going to be at a bar getting drunk. And Beslin's like, fine, I'll just be a coward and sit in a bar and get wasted if you want me to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Matt is foisting this whole arson plan onto Beslin because he can't get Beslin to leave them alone. Like, he never wanted Beslin to be part of this. He doesn't want fire. None of this is part of his plan. This is the first crack in his plan, is this.
However, Beslin is in on it because he saw Tom slipping into the stable yard of the Wandering Woman. What are the odds that Tom gets spotted by accident by Beslin? And what are the odds that Tom let Beslin see him because he thought it would be helpful to bring him into this and be a distraction because he understands how rebellions work and he's helping?
I was thinking as I did my notes, like, that was sloppy of Tom. Weird time for Tom to be sloppy on the eve of such an important operation. And I just blazed past it because Tom is a fucking master, and even I can be taken in by his devious mustaches.
I assume Tom doesn't have accidents like that. Not political things like that, like letting something slip. Like, that would be really weird of him. Now, if he said it's in Julian slipping it open, like, okay, yeah, that's fine. Right? But like,
Tom?
No.
Yeah. No, I have to trust Tom. I have to trust Tom.
Tom understands what being seen means and the implications of that.
Yeah.
By the heir who he knows is trying to hold a rebellion. Like, that didn't go over his head.
Yeah. Like, maybe Ta'Veren sprinkled a little extra dust on it to make sure Beslin was feeling particularly suspicious that day. But no, I completely agree. That was intentional on Tom's part. And I never thought about that before, but it's just so in character.
Mm-hmm. They bring up the signet ring that Matt's wearing. Make sure that we point out that he's been wearing it this whole time. It clinks on the table. Just a little, that may be important in the near future when he kidnaps his future wife.
Yeah, no, there's this whole paragraph here is a very... You're really seeing Matt at his peak Ebou Dar right before he leaves Ebou Dar, right? He's sitting in a bamboo chair. His ring is clicking. He's got a plain coat on, but his undershirt's really nice and has lots of lace. And he's really...
The hat, the scarf.
And he's got his party, right? He's got all of these relationships where he's used to taking command of these people. He's used to their talents and skills. He's about to pick up like a whole extra party. He's already made arrangements with, Egyan and Domon. He's about to pick up Tuon and Selusha. Like, he's just so quintessentially Matt right now.
And of course, all the Aes Sedai he helps escape as well.
A boatload of Aes Sedai. And a literal boatload of sea folk while we're at it.
They just don't come with him. Yeah.
But he still sets a boatload of sea folk loose to screw everything up for the enemy. Like, he's just so Matt right now. And I'm really enjoying getting to this part of him. It's the Lion on a Hill, right? We've been in Tylen's toy space, and now we're shifting to Lion on a Hill space. And much like Tuon, I like him better in lion mode.
Yeah, he's dangerous. He's interesting. He's not... That's a terrible way to put that, but like...
He's not a fop, right? He's got some metal.
Yes, thank you. Yeah.
It's fun. I'm enjoying this part of him. And I'm so glad we're almost done with Tylen. Tylen is very, very nearly in the rear view. That tunnel is coming to an end.
I mean, in a lot of ways, her end is very karmic, right? It's, again, where I think Jordan understands the evil that she did is he gives her in a lot of ways, it doesn't redeem her that she gets her head cut off, but you're like, I'm not sure she deserved that for what she did, right? Like, that seems excessive. But on the other hand, rapists get punished in this series for the most part. Okay, moving on. No more talking about that. It's such a frustrating topic to talk about. It's so hard to come down on a, like, opinion that feels right when thinking about Thailand.
Yeah, we can take another deep dive into that when we get news of her death and Matt is processing it, but until then, we're just gonna move on.
Moving on. We got a bit of Teslin, and it looks like she's getting closer and closer to the edge of breaking.
Yeah, and I'm assuming that the Suldam that's with her is specifically that one. This must be Bethaman, as I believe Bethaman's the one who was suggesting that Tessie be given the harsh treatment, and she's glancing at this Suldam with a very specific kind of fright. So I'm assuming that this is the Suldam who's most invested in her quote-unquote training.
Encyclopedia Watt agrees with you.
Cool. Yeah, it's working on her, right? Because it's been basically this whole week she's been going through that. It's been basically the same Randland week that she's been undergoing this. And I feel like 10 days of that sort of treatment would have anyone at the frayed edge of their tolerance and their nerves.
Do we remember how long Egwene was captured by the Shanshan? Wasn't it like, was it 3 months? Was it that long?
I think it was...
Or was it closer to like 1 month?
I think it was closer to 2 months. I'm not positive, but she wasn't being given the specific treatment regime either. Mm-hmm. She was getting the more straightforward method. I think Bethaman's maybe harsher than the Suldam we saw in Great Hunt. I think Egwene was in captivity for like 1 to 2 months.
Okay. Yeah, Zul saying 2.
Cool.
That seems about right. I remember I feel like it was less. She was basically in captivity the entire time they were doing flicker, right? And that was a couple of months that they lost.
Right, because when we check in with Egwene, it's been like 13 weeks since they arrived at the tower, and she has recently begun feeling like Rand isn't in the world. And like 2 days later, Leandrin's taken them out of the tower. And then 2 days later, she's in Shanshan captivity, basically.
Right.
So yeah, she spends the majority of the time that Rand is in flicker, not all of it, but most of it in captivity. And then once he gets out of flicker, it's like 4 or 5 days until everything goes down. So yeah, she's in there for roughly 2 months, maybe a little less.
That all adds up.
Ugh, unpleasant. But yeah, we're just out in the yard looking at the weather, and Matt is doing this whole, oh yes, the weather is clearly too terrible for me to go out today. I'll just do my exercises and then go back in and have a cup of cocoa for the evening and definitely not go out, which is very deliberate on his part because he wants everyone to assume that, he's going to escape one of these days, but not tonight.
What do you get out of this interaction with Vannon?
The title of the chapter?
Okay, sure.
I don't know. Honestly, it's a frustratingly empty interaction for me. There's just the part where Vannon doesn't act respectful to Matt the way he does to horses or the way he does to Elaine for some reason. And it's just, is everything okay? Yes. All right, good. Like, I want there to be something here, but I don't see it.
Well, okay, so clearly Vannon is standing in the rain ignoring the weather, which makes him Forsaken, because only Forsaken do that, so he's Vanindred.
Okay,
yep.
All right. That would make this interaction make sense. Yeah.
It would. If he was a red herring for Vanindred.
Wasted opportunity.
I'm not letting that theory go.
No.
You can't, for my cold dead hands. That's the only time you're going to get that theory. I know it's wrong, but I don't care.
I don't care either anymore. Yeah, it works too freaking well.
It works too well. Yeah. It's just all my Vannon interactions are always going to be like, how does this support the fact that he's Vanindred?
Right. It's kind of like me with, Elaine and Avienda. Just, it's... That one's a little bit more common in the fandom, maybe. You might be unique in the Vannon thing, but it's basically the same thing.
That one I feel like has a lot more support from the text, though.
Yeah, which is why it's like a very common conclusion in the fandom. But still, there are canonical lines that I'm just like, we are collectively ignoring that. And, we're kind of doing the same thing here with Vannon. It's like, no, it's too good to let go. I don't care what the text actually says.
And I will say this, that it was something Jordan had in his head, but he never told Brandon Sanderson about it. So Sanderson wrote a Vanindred that was not Vanindred, right? But Jordan, up through book 11, definitely thought that he was going to make Vanindred Vanindred. So that's how I justify that sort of split where it doesn't end up happening. And it's because, like, you know, unfortunately we lost Robert Jordan and he didn't have a chance to convey all of his notes, including this very, very important piece of secret. And that's why we had the whole Shara thing is clearly just, you know, Brandon had to come up with something. The number of times that he talked about having an army in the South, right? That was the Band of the Red Hand. Vannon could have taken over. For legal reasons, this is a fictional podcast. So anyway, that's my headcanon. So that adds some flavor to this interaction that otherwise apparently there's nothing to have. Otherwise, it's just nothing there. Yeah. Matt thinks about his bow and his Ashendare and how everything's definitely going to go according to plan. And then we spend literally 4 paragraphs waiting for time to pass. It's 4 paragraphs of just describing how agonizingly slow time passes at night. And how bad the weather is. Yeah, it's raining and the clock is ticking and he's not asleep. And I'm just mood, but also are we still on this? Another paragraph? Another paragraph? Also, and he's also describing what's going on according to the plan in real time. So we get a whole nother summary of the plan again. Yeah, very montage. And it's going back to what Jordan likes to do is when his characters are bored, he likes to give you sort of longer descriptions of them sitting there. When his characters are delusional, right? With Rand, you get that little bit of back and forth. I kind of like when he does that, when he's like, okay, I'm also feeling a little bored. Mm-hmm. No, he brings up that feeling of anxiously waiting for time to pass. And after only a week, another hour chimes. God, so much childhood trauma comes back whenever I get to this section, you know? It's a mood. It's a mood. Kind of reminds me of those movies where, you know, it's the movie takes place in 24 hours, but most of the movie takes place. I was just watching Event Horizon actually yesterday. And that's one of those things where they know they've got 20 hours of oxygen left. And the first 16 of those hours pass in about 5 minutes, you know, and then all of a sudden time slows down and you get much more immersed in the last 4 hours. And then down to the final 30-second countdown where that takes 20 minutes. You know? right. Yeah. You're wait a minute. Time is not linear in this movie by any means. And I kind of feel like that's what he's done here with this is this is the last couple of hours and I'm going to stretch it out right before things happen. Yeah. It's that anticipation time dilation thing where the closer you get, the longer it takes. And it sucks when you're waiting for a big plan to go down or to take a flight or go to the doctor or something. It's very immersive. Very immersive. Why is this when I make an appointment in the afternoon and I spend all morning just waiting for it instead of doing anything productive? I feel like that's what's going on here with Matt. Yeah, that's waiting mode and it's an ADHD thing. Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah, it's fun. Tuesdays, I have a hard time getting anything done. Just in general, it's just hard to get anything done. This is the thing I get done on Tuesdays. It's also kind of why we moved the recording up earlier so that we can record and then go out and have an evening. Yes. Right? Because waiting for it takes up the whole day. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Yeah, the predictability of having it at the same time every week helps, but still, yes, Tuesday is the day I do watch spoilers, and everything else is bent around that particular dip in the space-time continuum. No, I generally, Tuesday mornings are the mornings I play video games. Mm-hmm. It's the only time I play video games, and it's because of the appointment anxiety, the fact that I can't do anything else except get ready for What Spoilers, and I can sit at my computer and play video games because that's getting ready for What Spoilers because I'm sitting at my computer. But I've also taught myself to actually enjoy that time and be like, okay, no, this is when I get my week of gaming. Yeah. My weekly gaming. And that works for me. Yeah, you got to hack and gamify your own issues. Otherwise, they just ruin your life. But yeah, that's why appointments should be earlier in the day, in general. Oh, yeah, I always try and schedule first thing. Like, if I have a dentist appointment, as early as I can get it. Doctor's appointment, as early as I can get it. Oh, my
God. When I got my wisdom teeth out, they were like, we're going to do in the afternoon. I'm like, really? And then, yes. It was...
Unless it's something I have to think for, and then I'll do it, like, at noon.
Well, sure. Yeah.
Yeah,
you don't want to actually be a functional human being in charge of making decisions too early. That would be excessive.
No. But I'll make somebody else do that. Absolutely. Because it's their job. They're getting up early for it. They're used to that. Like,
yeah. That's their cross to bear.
Right. That's why I drink lots of coffee in the morning before work, because I need to be able to make decisions at 6 a.m.
Yuck.
Yeah, that's accurate.
So then, Matt is hanging out, waiting for the party to assemble. Suspense. Time is stretching out. And then Eggion says, your man Vannon is very rude. And it's just, I love her so much. What is the quote here? She can make the drawl sound brisk. I love Eggion.
She's a fun character in the, like, she really does do the right thing. She's someone who breaks out of her conditioning, her
cultural conditioning.
Cultural conditioning, right? She's able to break free of that, actually form relationships with Aes Sedai, but at the same time, she's, like, kind of grumpy. She's kind of got that grumpy old man feeling to her, right? Like, I think it's why she makes such a good warder, or would have made a good warder for Egwene. Is she's got that, like, grumpy old man, I know what I'm doing, get out of my way, you young whippersnapper.
That's why she pairs well with Domon, because that's kind of his attitude too. He was clearly an old man before he turned 10, you know?
Yes, he do be. That's why I love him so much.
Yeah, no, they're straightforward and not bending to fit other people's molds and expectations, right? They just are who they are, and they try to fit in, but they can't help but be themselves, and they're refreshing and funny, but not in the snarky way. And then the part where she breaks out of her conditioning as a Shan-Chan is just like really
C2on, it can be done.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, no, the Shan-Chan conditioning is not some extra special thing. Like, anyone can choose to not degrade people like this. Like, it just takes opening your mind up a little bit. Like, this random ship captain can do it. Why can't you, Empress?
So Eggion shows up with a much different crew than she was supposed to. Basically, a bunch more people, the Aes Sedai, the warders, because they were going to meet up later, I think, is what the original plan was, right? Like, outside. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is when the plan shatters into a million pieces. We got the first crack earlier. This is when it's just the whole thing's in pieces on the floor, and the chapter even ends with Matt saying, oh, by the way, the plan was already broken before the chapter opened. I already made up my mind that I'm changing some things. It's ridiculous.
What did he change? I assume we're talking about the Shan-Chan, or not the Shan-Chan, letting out the sea folk, right? I assume that's the change that he's made, right?
That's what I assume as well. It's the sea folk, because that was the thing that he doesn't have to do that to get out. So it was the last item for him to figure out. And he didn't sort it out until like an hour before he goes and does it, right? Like, it's something he just finally managed to worry into place.
And probably that's one of the reasons why we got this really long paragraph of him sitting there waiting and thinking, because what he thought was, I can let the sea folk out. That sort of came together in his head while he was ruminating and waiting for this thing to start.
Yeah, so... Well, chat's saying that the plan does succeed flawlessly with only minor changes. I mean, the part where the roster of the party changes makes Matt very upset. So I would say that in his opinion, it's shattered. It comes off in the end, but it's a different animal by the time we get to the end. But yeah, I think Eggion's adjustments to the plan are well-reasoned, and none of them cause issues. And Matt's definitely a bigger liability to his plan than Eggion is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and when I say shattered, I mean, I'm thinking mostly from his POV, where he's like, oh, this plan is ruined. It's terrible now. And it's like, yeah, okay, it's fine. Your plan mostly worked. But I like that it sort of shows off the general, where he's like, okay, things change. I'm rolling with it. Let's do this new plan. But the big change is, of course, Tuon, right? The kidnapping of
That's the really big change.
really big change. The plan sort of goes off the rails where it's like, so yeah, we were trying to escape and take a couple of people with us, and we're kidnapping the Empress. Because at that point, she becomes the Empress. Because remember, Semirog, aka Anath, is on an extended vacation right now, murdering the Empress.
Bathing in all of the royal blood that she can find. Except for Tuon.
And remember, she can only do that because she recognizes the chair of Dominion and can insulate herself from the effects.
Yeah. So presumably the moment at which power is being passed to Tuon in terms of the actual death of her family, probably it's about this evening. Like, as Matt is saying, she is my wife in the next chapter. Like, presumably that's the moment that, like, her mother's throat is being slit. And like, you know, like it's just like, that's how Ta'Veren rolls, right?
It's like, of course, the moment Matt marries her is the moment she becomes Empress. So he immediately becomes Prince of the Ravens in that moment.
That's just, I assume that's roughly how that goes. Yep. Just, it would be very, very Jordan to be like that.
But yeah, I mean, I think the only reason the kidnapping works is because they didn't intend to kidnap her. And so it's very hard to track. They're like, wait, they planned this escape, which was really effective, but no one would have made that plan if they had planned to kidnap the Empress. Precisely. And so that's why it's very difficult for the Death Watch Guard to track her down. Yeah,
it's a chaotic and incredibly astronomically unlikely assemblage of disparate plans and thinking on your feet coming together in a way that like would never happen, right? There's no way in the odds of odds that you'd have a perfect escape plan that doubles as a kidnapping plan. Like, there's no way that would happen, but it's Matt Cawthon, so.
Right, and of course, obviously, he's not the Prince of Ravens until she says the words, but he's caught at that point once he says the words, right? Like, that's, yeah.
And that whole moment is part of her, he will marry you and carry you away, right? She's like, he's carrying me away and saying that we're going to get married. All right, that's what that meant. Let's go. And that's part of why the kidnapping works, too, is because she's very ready for it.
And she's only waiting for like one final, it's the he will free you and let you go type situation. And once he does that, then she can, all the parts of the prophecy are fulfilled.
Right. And she sees the Band of the Red Hand banner. Right. And yeah, but the marriage ceremony just takes them a while to complete. It starts here. And then there's a courtship in the middle. And then they finish the marriage ceremony. It's very out of order, but like it is all the right pieces.
And the courtship is really just Tuon waiting for the right signs.
Yeah, it's Matt thinking that he's winning her over while she's actually waiting for omens and being sort of won over on the side by accident without really noticing that it's happening. Matt is focused on it. Tuon is just waiting for signs. It's very funny. They really are going to need some couples counseling once the Fourth Age settles down.
No, and Matt really didn't have a good reason to kidnap Tuon, which I think is one of the reasons why the Death Watch guards are trying to be like, okay, we're looking for a motive, and no one who has a motive disappeared that night, and so they don't link the two very easily.
Yeah, exactly. Normal investigative techniques don't work.
Do we have the exact wording of Tuon's prophecy?
I don't have it to hand, but I am sure that your Google skills will bring it up.
Or we can just wait for Discord to do it for me.
Thank you, T-Bird99.
Beware the fox that makes the ravens fly, for he will marry you and carry you away. Beware the man that remembers Hawkwing's face, for he will marry you and set you free. So there's the set you free part. Beware the man of the red hand, for him you will marry and none other. So Band of the Red Hand, set you free, remembers Hawkwing's face, carry you away. And the fox that makes the ravens fly. So that's the first one's the band of the ring he's got.
The second one is next chapter.
This is the next chapter. He's going to marry her and carry her away. He remembers Hawkwing's face. She asks him that, and he's like, no.
He lied so blatantly that she got a yes.
Right. Yep. Because he saw him at, well, there's two ways he remembers his face, right? And I think this is kind of clever. He remembers his face both from the old memories, but also he saw him at Falma.
Yeah, there's a couple. I mean, and Matt lies about the memories thing. That's what he's thinking of when he utters the lie. But yeah, the pattern had him either way.
And the Man of the Red Hand, obviously the Band of the Red Hand.
And Set You Free is right about the same time as Band of the Red Hand happens. Right. Those two come within hours of each other.
And I'm convinced that the remember the Red Hand, the Band of the Red Hand? The name of that comes from the fact that he got stabbed in the hand by the Bubble of Evil when he was playing the first Bubble of Evil with the playing cards.
You think that's where the name comes from?
Because, and if you go back and listen to the episode, I definitely thought this at the time, the people he's playing cards with are the Kyrianan nobles who later become the founding members of the Band of the Red Hand. And we never get an origin of that. But imagine, what do they remember? They remember about Matt, the fact that he got stabbed in the hand and he had the bloody red hand, guessing he left a bloody handprint somewhere. And that became what they remembered about him. And so when they started their band, they named it after that incident at the Bubble of Evil.
Goddamn, dude.
Headcanon, there's no proof of that anywhere.
There's no explanation. Otherwise.
But there's no explanation for the Band of the Red Hand.
I mean, I don't know about in Origins. I haven't read it properly cover to cover like I should because I'm a bad fan. But, there's never an explanation given. And I was blown away when you guys found that all of the future commanders of the band are in that Bubble of Evil scene. So that makes so much sense. That makes yes, headcanon accepted, locked, and loaded.
So the Band of the Red Hand and this prophecy is tied to the Bubble of Evil.
So it's just everything that happens to Matt happens for a reason. It's all
Dark
coming
One's
together.
On luck.
Yeah.
Yeah, and obviously not all of his commanders are in that room, and some of those people in the room do end up dying before they become part of the Band of the Red Hand, or I think one or two of them go off on their own way, but...
Let me just pop up.
We can pull up exactly who's in that room.
Let me just see if Origins has anything to say about this.
About the Band of the Red Hand?
Yeah, why not? The symbol of the Red Hand was adopted by Old Neil of Ulster, and this is often called the Red Hand of Ulster, but it has deep roots across Gaelic culture, with many clans claiming it as a symbol with different stories about its origin. That is not helpful. In the Wheel of Time, Matt does the thing that we just described. And they take their name from a group of heroes called Shannon Calhar, which is Shannon, County Clare, Ireland.
So it sounds like the companion says the Band of the Red Hand is a legendary group from Manetherin.
Yeah.
And I get that, but, what makes them think of that? Why,
Because Matt said something about Manetherin one time.
Right. No, I think it's maybe, but I think it's the guys they're going to name it after that because of the Red Hand, right? They're not going to be like, oh, we're old Manetherin guys, right? Like,
I was into it before it was cool, dude. You wouldn't understand.
They're Kyrianan. They're not Manetherin.
No, yeah, they're not even Andoran. No, I like this headcanon. I'm digging it. There's nothing that says that syncretism can't apply in the Wheel of Time. It's like a whole plot device. All I have left here is just pointing out that it's Sita, Zarbi, and Rena, Iman. Those are our Suldam. They're going to be with us for a while.
Bethaman, Rena, and Sita.
Yeah, we'll be with them for a bit.
Don't they end up being convinced that they can channel eventually by the because they fall into Aes Sedai hands? Yeah.
No, they don't fall into Aes Sedai hands. They come with, and then they start to ask to learn, and they sort of force themselves onto the Aes Sedai. Because they realize that they can channel, and then they decide that they would actually rather be channelers than non-channelers. And it's a whole thing with Tuon. Tuon puts the leashes on them at one point.
Oh, that's right.
No, not on them. She puts it on Tylan or Teslin. Fucking Jordan, you goddamn names. But one of them runs away, right? It's Rena is the one who runs away. And Matt orders her shot in the back.
Oh, gosh. Wow. Okay, I really have to brush up on my... Rena stabs Zagina, then steals a horse and flees west. Harnan kills her with a crossbow bolt just before she reaches.
Yeah.
So that's Rena.
And Sita, I'm looking her up in Origins. Sita forces the Aes Sedai to start training her because she, does magic. Mm-hmm. And she heads off to the White Tower when that party splits off and goes there. And according to
Bethaman
Black
as well.
Book, that's the last we see of them.
Mm-hmm. So basically, they both go off to become Aes Sedai.
Two of the three
novices.
go off to become novices, and one of them goes off to become a traitor. And bitches or snitches get stitches applies quite thoroughly to that choice on her part.
Well, and she stabs Aeginin, but Aeginin gets, like, what, an immediate healing because there's Aes Sedai standing around?
Right, there's a disturbance. Matt and the others go running over, and Domon says, I can't chase after the bitch because I'm holding in Aeginin's lifeblood, and she gets healed, like, in that moment, and is very, very weak from it. She should have died by all counts. She very nearly does.
Yeah, and this is one of those moments where where Matt kills a woman and feels bad about it, and... that's just one of those things that Jordan brings up so often with his main characters. But then they go kill women when it's necessary. So it's like, okay, feel bad about it, but do it anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I get feeling bad about this one, not because she's a woman, but because she's running away and you're shooting her in the back. And that is a rough call to make. But I really wish that they had made it about the part where they're shooting her in the back.
Not the fact that she's a woman.
Yes, because like it is one of the roughest kills that you see on the page. And like there's so much like cool stuff to talk about. But no, it's the ovaries. The ovaries are what make the difference. And it's just, ugh.
And I do feel like Matt is more over it than some of the other characters.
Very much so.
He's just like, well, if they're dangerous, that's what's got to happen, right? I'm not going to risk my own bits to save a woman's life. Like, that shouldn't be...
Unless it's Moraine.
Right. Well, that's to save a friend, in my opinion. Yeah. Right? Like, and to save someone who could make a big difference, right? I think he knows...
half the light of the world to save the world.
Right.
It's not just for Moraine.
Prophecy that Rand needs someone dead and gone to save the world.
That's the Eowyn prophecy. That's stronger than a Min prophecy.
No, but Min talks about how that's the only one of her sightings she ever got wrong.
Oh, about Moraine. Yeah.
Yeah, about Moraine, yeah.
So yeah, that's all I got for the chapter. You want to give us a little readout?
No point standing here, Matt said. Let's get on with it. He let her changes in the plan go without further comment. After all, lying on that bed in Tyland's apartments, he had decided to risk a change or two himself. Very short readout, but I didn't think anything else needed to be read out. That was actually no point standing here. Let's get on with it.
Yeah, that was a very quick recording.
Right, very quick recording, and we definitely stretched that as long as we could with tangents. So
yeah,
we almost made that a doubleheader, but the next chapter is significant enough that we didn't want to rush it. So
yeah, next chapter is, I mean, it's a big one. A lot of fun, tricksy things happen, and Tuon joins the party, and this is just all warm up. So if you're disappointed, then too bad.
Mm-hmm. And Mihaf is asking if Matt knows that prophecy. He definitely knows the prophecy, half the light of the world to save the world.
Yeah. He got that from going through the twisted doorway.
So he understands that losing the eye is going to save the world. But and I feel like he repeats that to himself before he loses the eye. He like knows the bargain's up. So he knows that saving Moraine has to save the world. Like there's something, he somehow made that connection.
Yeah, he says, I'm going to get her. And they say, you know the price. And he says, half the light of the world. And it's just the loop closes, and the cathartic release is in my soul is akin to that of the Eowyn who actually yanks out the eye. It's really weird, but it's what it is.
Yeah, for as much shit as we give Jordan for messing up some of Matt's personality traits, he really does, or Jordan Sanderson, for messing up Matt's personality traits, he does such a good job of bringing his plot line back onto itself. And maybe that's, Jordan had already set that up and I think he had planned for that rescue to happen already, but the whole bringing it back on itself with Matt, I like his whole arc really well. I'm losing words. Yeah, no, and it makes sense because that's what Sanderson got inspired to become a writer with, was the setup for that story, right? Like, to write Matt per se might be difficult, but to revisit the parts of that story that made it kick for us and made Shadow Rising the best book ever. Like, I imagine that that's part of why it felt so good, is because he was right there with us for that satisfying conclusion feeling. And I really liked Perrin's arc as him defending Rand and Teleron Riyadh and being there to make sure that he didn't get killed and killing Lanfear. Oh, wait. that's not happening anymore. So, yeah. I do need to go back and reread that last 3 books, because I won't call it a retcon, because I know it was in there from the beginning, but that change in perspective has me doubting, like, what was Perrin's point in the last battle?
If you want me to believe something, don't wait 10 years to tell me. I just, like, I'll see how I feel when we pod through it, but I'm not adopting it unless it really works for me on my next read, because there's a statute of limitations on getting in to the canon library, and, like, it's different with, like, the notes for Origins, you know, because that's behind the scenes. This whole, like, haha, plot twist, you were wrong about everything the whole time, is like, was I, though? Was I?
Yeah. Right. And it just makes sense that Rand faces the Dark One, Matt does the armies, and Perrin does the Dream.
Yeah.
Like,
it works.
Don't mess with that. Don't mess with my Perrin, man. Don't mess with my Perrin.
The Perrin stands are coming for you. Everyone who disagrees. Oh, I am so curious to know if Allie spots that from Wheel Takes, because Allie has been scary on top of stuff, right. And her and Gus have done quite a bit of Perrin slander at this point. They're up to book 8, so I am so curious if she spots that, because supposedly it's there and Matt Hatch saw it. And then if she sees it, or even if she doesn't, what she thinks of it. Read faster, Allie and Gus. God damn it.
No, I don't want them to pass us.
Oh, they're going to pass us. They are definitely going to pass us.
How many, what's their pace? Are they doing like 2 episodes a week?
Yeah.
Or 2 chapters a week?
They do 2 chapters per episode. They keep saying they're going to do more than that, and then they never do. But they generally do 2 in an episode. So, yeah, and that's usually once a week, though. Life has been rough for them the past couple of months between the holidays and having actual existences outside of the podcast, which is like, you know, spoilers, podcasters have lives. But, like, yeah, they're totally going to pass us.
You can tell how much of a life a podcaster has by how regularly the podcast comes out. The more regular, the less of a life.
Oh, just at me next time. Oh.
I'm just saying, Watch Spoilers has been regular for a lot of years.
Woof. Woof. Oh, God. That's true. But, like, honestly, though, like, I keep struggling with this thing where, like, my actual social life and my career and my friends and what I do, it's all online. It's too stressful to move my meat suit across space and time when I could just hang out with people on the internet, and, like, it's so satisfying. And
you also don't live near very many people.
No, but I don't see the people I do live near very often either. So, like, there are people I could be seeing that I am not. And when I lived in town, I was terrible about ever seeing anyone. Like, even the year that I was out of school and still living in town, I did not go out and see anyone. Like,
in fairness, the vast majority of my social life is entirely arranged by my girlfriend.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hi, honey. Who are we hanging out with tonight? That's usually how I get home, is like, because she's got a big family and a big friend group, and I like them. So that's usually enough. And that's usually enough socialization for me in a given week, is however much she wants. And then I'm often doing other things while she goes and hangs out with her other friends.
I don't feel socially deprived, and I hang out with one person in meat space for, like, weeks at a time and just avoid contact with everybody else and just have internet friends, and I'm fine with it.
Yeah. My anxiety basically disappeared. My, like, terrible, crippling social anxiety completely disappeared during the pandemic. Just gone. Just didn't have any panic attacks, didn't have any issues. I was just like, I am so happy during, and I was, you know, sometimes lonely, but not, you know, I had roommates, I had the internet friends that I'd made, and I didn't have any obligations, and my income was guaranteed. And I went from extremely anxious about income and social stuff to having both of those basically non-issues. And, you know, obviously the pandemic did a lot of bad things, but I feel like it helped me recenter myself in my life and sort of reprioritize what I cared about.
It blew a lot of lids off of people's sense of normal, and that was good for a lot of people.
For a lot of people, yeah.
Yeah, totally. It's I'm trying to be okay with the fact that like I'm happier and more regulated this way, but like there's still that guilty voice of like you're supposed to be social, you're supposed to be this, you're supposed to be that, and it's you're not living your life, you're not being a good human. It's just like, but I'm happier this way.
These holidays were the first time where I felt that stress was back, where it was like, you need to visit you're expected to have fun with your friends on Halloween. You're expected to visit your family on Thanksgiving and Christmas. You're expected to, get people gifts who you interact with on a regular basis for the holidays. You're expected to drink on New Year's, all of that, all those expectations. I didn't do all that stuff, but all those expectations, I felt them again, and that brought back a lot of the social anxiety that I had really gotten away from over the last 3 years.
Thank you for listening to the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast. Rate us in the Apple Podcast app or support us on Patreon. Is that good enough?